Hello and welcome to iHeart Cooking. I'm registered dietitian Jennifer Stachler.
And I'm Chef Dugan Wetzel.
We are brought to you by Reid Health Community Benefits, WCTV, and RPNL. Today on this episode, we're going to be talking about a variety of recipes with quinoa. Welcome to iHeart Cooking. Today on this episode, we're going to be talking about all different recipes, including quinoa. So we have a variety of different ones, including breakfast, dinner, lunch ideas. So I'm pretty excited about it. Nice thing about quinoa, one great health benefit is it can be used as a complete protein, meaning it has all those essential amino acids. So most of the time, we see most of our animal products like meats and seafoods and eggs have those complete proteins. Not many grains do. You'll see some grains have some of those, but not all of them. This is the only one, the quinoa, that has all of that. So it's a great substitute for a lot of our vegetarian, vegan kind of dishes that we work with.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, and the first one we're doing is actually Quinoa Enchilada casserole that Dugan will be getting started here with.
Yes. So what we did, we went ahead and started some water, got our quinoa in there. You want to treat it just like you would rice. 2-to-1 ratio. Let it cook down. That quinoa is going to absorb all that liquid. You can use water if you've got a low sodium vegetable stock. That would be a nice option as well, because that's just another added flavor. And we're all about adding flavor to these things because we're not adding salt. So we're gonna use herbs. We're gonna use whatever we can to bring as much flavor as possible. So we've got that. We let it go for about 20 minutes. It has cooked through, and you finish with, as you can see, it's nice and absorbed in there. The quinoa itself has puffed up just a little bit, and there's a little white ring around the edge of it. Kind of an indicator that it is cooked through. It is nice and soft. It's got that texture to it. So what we're going to do is just simply add it to a bowl here. Really, this is a very simple dish. We're going to add some of our ingredients now. We're using an enchilada sauce. We used a low-sodium canned enchilada sauce that you can find in the store. Basically what it is tomato paste, roasted chilies, and some red peppers. Very simple. Pureed down. Gets that nice flavor in there. Just going right on top of the quinoa. Some green chilies.
Great way to add a little bit of heat there. And
Yeah, absolutely. Very subtle, not overpowering with the heat. Some corn. We're using a frozen variety, a frozen sweet corn. And then we're using a low-sodium black bean. Rinsed. It's in a can, comes in a can. You can put it in a strainer, run it under your faucet, get all that extra, that liquid that it sits in off. So then all you have left is the bean itself. So that's in there.
Nice thing I like about rinsing a lot of my canned vegetables, canned beans, is if there is any sodium in there, you can actually get rid of some of the sodium once you rinse it. It's not all going completely get off. There's been research studies done that, at least a third of it, or if not a quarter of it, can kind of be decreased from the sodium.
Right, absolutely. Went ahead and added some tomatoes and then a spice blend. We did some chili powder, some cumin, a little bit of pepper, just right in there. Very simple, nothing too exotic. And then what we're going to do is just take a little bit of cilantro. And if you watched our last episode last month, I talked about using the stems of cilantro. It is perfectly fine to do that. They have tremendous flavor in the stems. Very, very underutilized part of the herb itself, because a lot of people will just throw away the stems, but there's a ton of flavor in there. So just really quick, kind of just rough chopping it.
It's a great way to use all the product too, so you don't feel like you're not wasting them either. And it makes it a lot easier when you're chopping them up versus taking each leaf off the stem. So it makes it a lot quicker process.
Much faster, absolutely. So now that's just rough chopped. We're going to add that into our blend. Then we're going to mix it up. You can get a spoon very easily, and then just toss everything. Make sure it's all well incorporated. Now that that's all blended, we're going to add a little bit of cheese to it. This is going to help kind of be our binder. We've got the quinoa in there, but just a little bit of cheese is going to help hold everything together.
And it's another item that has that sodium in there, so if you're looking for more of that salty flavor, again, we omit a lot of the salt out of our recipes. We don't add any additional, because you're getting that from the enchilada sauce, you're getting that from the cheese, so you're still getting that flavor there, but yet decreasing it to make it more heart healthy friendly.
Absolutely. Okay, so now that that is incorporated, you can see it's really kind of dried up. It's all that sauce has been absorbed by everything. It's going to go straight into our pan. Smooth that out so it's even cooking here. Then we top it with just a little bit more cheese, and we're going to cook it. Since this quinoa is already hot, it's not going to take very long in the oven. You're just going to cook this until the cheese starts to bubble, and it's melted all the way through, and then pretty simply we'll cut up an avocado, serve it on top, and it'll be ready. So
I say 375 for the temp for the oven, about 15 minutes, and it will be ready to go. So very quick and easy to prepare. A lot of times the longest cooking process is going to be the quinoa at the beginning. So now that we have the quinoa enchilada casserole in the oven cooking, we're going to move on to our next recipe, which is a black bean and quinoa burrito. I love this recipe because you'll find in the end that you can actually place these in the freezer, take them out as you need them for quick lunch ideas, and I do this quite often for work. So the first thing that we're really going to do with this recipe is we're going to start off by sauteing some onions. So we're going to have our saute pan here, and we're going to add some olive oil there and kind of let that warm up a little bit. While that's kind of warming up, I'm actually going to dice some of these jalapeno peppers, get them a little bit ready. We're not going to add these whole ones into the recipe themselves. I don't know about Dugan. I'm not a big person or somebody who likes heat, but I think Dugan does.
I do, yes. I like jalapenos, so it really depends on if you're adventurous or even just can handle heat if you want to, how finely you want to dice them, because you can really mince these up really fine so they spread out evenly throughout all the food. So then you don't have to use so many. So then, like we were saying earlier, it kind of tones down the temperature. So completely up to you, however you want. You can put them in whole if you're really adventurous, or you can mince them up really fine and spread them out. You still get that flavor. Because jalapeno as a flavor is really nice. It's really good with, especially a dish like this. So.
It is. It's just something, personally for myself and my kids, I don't really like that, but I do make them occasionally for my husband uses them as a lunch idea as well, and I'll add some to him. So our oil's heated up. You can kind of hear that simmer there. I'm going to add the rest of our onion to the dish and kind of let it sit there and saute a little bit. One of my favorite smells in the kitchen right here is cooking that onion. And again, while those are kind of sauteing up, I'm going to actually cut up our zucchini. So we're actually going to use the zucchini in this recipe, great source of lower carbs, because if you're looking at some of our other ingredients, we have black beans, which is a very high carb choice. We have corn, that's a very high carb choice, and then obviously the quinoa. So it's kind of nice to add this as well. So I'm just actually going to dice this. Kind of a little story while I was making this at home one time. Was growing some zucchini in my garden, or at least I thought it was zucchini, let's just say that. Went out to go get one of the zucchinis, realized, oh my goodness, I have cucumbers growing instead of zucchini, even though the actual tag on the plant said zucchini. So I was like, you know what? Cucumber, zucchini, about the same thing. I'm just going to add them. So I actually added them to this dish instead of zucchini, and it actually tasted really good.
Really?
Because I didn't cook them all the way through, so it gave a nice crunch to it.
Okay.
So if you ever grow cucumbers instead of zucchini, great choice to add.
The onions are starting to get really translucent. You can start seeing through them. That's when we're going to add the jalapeno, and we're going to add our garlic to this dish. So just a little bit of garlic. Drop those in there. That's good. This won't take very long. Garlic's minced, so it's going to take maybe a minute to cook through. You don't want to go much more than that, because then it starts to become bitter as it continues to cook and brown. So you want to do this step pretty quick, and probably be just continually monitoring it, making sure that it doesn't get overly brown.
One thing I've noticed, the years as we've been doing these cooking classes, I have always noticed that some recipes include that you add the onion and the garlic together.
Yeah.
And as I kind of experiment and kind of work further, I realized, you know what, that's not the best way to do it, because you're not getting that full potential of the flavor. Mm-hmm. So anytime you see that in recipes, I'd recommend, separating them. First do the onions and then add that garlic later, because like Dugan said, you'll get that brownness to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all, we've talked about this before, but every ingredient is different. Every ingredient has a different amount of moisture. Every ingredient has a different density to them. So, potatoes are going to take longer than an onion would, just because of their characteristics. So, yeah, always be mindful of that and have an idea of what takes longer to cook. So like onions and minced garlic, you're going to want to put your onions in first, just because they take a little bit longer. If you put them together, better chance that your garlic's going to burn on you. So just little tips like that are very beneficial. So we're ready.
Yeah. So I have some zucchini here. I actually have a red pepper we're going to dice up. Like in past episodes, Dugan has kind of shown where you can take the knife and kind of go around the top of the stem. Once you go all the way around, you put your thumb in there, and that way when you pull this apart, you have all of your seeds right there. So it makes it a nice, easy, clean cut there for you. Makes it really nice when you're working with stuffed peppers, which we have done in the past as well. Mm-hmm. And then we're not going to actually need this whole pepper right away, so we're going to actually only use half of it. And then we're going to add that in with our onions and garlic.
Again, with these two ingredients, both have a high water content, so it's really not going to take very long for them to cook. They're pretty equal as far as cooking time, so adding them together is perfectly fine in this sense. So,
I say, Dugan was talking about that high water content. Actually, the zucchini that I cut, you can actually see little drops of water actually from where I cut, because zucchini, along with the pepper, it's mostly water.
Oh yeah.
In the end.
Yep, absolutely. And that's kind of like what you're going to see here. That oil is cooked off with that onion and the garlic. There's no more moisture in there, but now that we've added a couple more ingredients, that water is getting leached out, and you can see it in the steam coming up the top. But it's also helping that garlic that's already in there from browning, because it's basically in water. So you're really okay there. So.
You can see right now it's a nice colorful dish too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to get our burritos. Here are tortilla shells we're using. A little bit larger than some of the ones we can have, because we're going to have a lot in there. We got to fold them up, and then we will be baking them off here at the end.
Got about 4 or 5 more minutes here. The zucchini, you want it to be soft, but you don't want it to get too mushy. Easy way to tell, just pull one out and kind of feel it with your fingers. If you want to sample it, go ahead. You don't want it to get too soft to the point where it just starts dissolving.
Yeah.
You're going to see a little bit of a color change to it. It's going to get a little bit darker, but other than that, it's 8 minutes tops, and then you'll be moving on to the next thing, which is your corn and your black beans. So,
nice thing about this recipe, while this is cooking, I'll kind of explain further on. After we get all the ingredients actually cooked through and sauteed, we're going to put them into our shells here, and then we're actually going to bake them off for a while. So they get a nice brown, crusty flavor, all the flavors kind of infused through. If you don't actually want to do that baking step, a nice thing that I tend to do is I will make a bunch of these all at once.
mm-hmm.
That I'll get to the point where I'll have these all wrapped up, ready to go. And then instead of baking them off, I will individually wrap them with foil and place them in my freezer. That way, when I need a meal, a nice lunch or something, the night before I'll take one of the burritos out, let it sit out, thaw out, take it with me to work, and then I pop it into the oven for about 2 minutes, cook it all through, and I have a really quick, easy lunch idea there.
Absolutely.
Great meal idea, even dinner time. If you're in a pinch and you're in a hurry, it's really easy to microwave, or you can place them in the oven after being in the freezer as well. So it's a nice kind of freezer meal to have for quick, easy meals.
So our red peppers are starting, they were a nice vibrant red color. They're starting to become a little bit more dull. The zucchini is looking a little bit darker. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next step, which is to add our corn. We'll go ahead and put our black beans in there. That'll be good. We're just going to heat this through. Not going to take very long. All of this is already pre-cooked, so you're just reheating it is all you're doing. So a couple minutes. Tons of color in there. It's looking really good.
We're actually going to add our tomatoes as well into here. Cook it all through. So now that this is cooked through, we're actually going to add our spices and our cilantro as well. So like the previous recipe, we're going to use the stem and everything. We're actually going to add some chili powder, some paprika, and some cumin.
This is the part too where we're going to kind of fold in our quinoa so it kind of blends in there. It absorbs, because it doesn't have a ton of flavor by itself. But it'll absorb some of those spices, some of that flavor from the cilantro, just right into it. As soon as you put that cilantro in there, you get that real refreshing smell that I love cilantro.
I say I do too. That's why I'm adding a little bit more here because it just didn't look like enough.
Yeah. Okay. So we are about there. We're going to give it about another minute. You don't want to go too much, especially adding herbs to it, because then if you go too long, it cooks out all that flavor and then you lose it all. So great time to add the herbs are right at the very end. So you can get that real pop of flavor. You can really bring it out because of the heat, but then pull it right off and get it into the tortillas. So I'd say we're ready to go.
Okay, so we have a little bit of cheese here that we're going to add to the tortilla and then add some of the actual mixture itself as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. Just bring it over to you.
Spoonful there. Kind of just roll these up into a tortilla here to little burritos. We'll make a few more and then we're going to bake these off for a few minutes to brown them off.
Great color, great smell. Yeah,
They look really good, and like I said, I've used these many times in the past for easy meals. and it's definitely a winner, and it actually will very much fill you up, not only because of the protein that you find in the black beans and the quinoa, but there's a lot of fiber in here, so it actually makes you full. So if you ever eat a lunch and you're hungry an hour or two later, probably because you're not getting a lot of fiber, things to kind of keep you that satisfied through the afternoon, I'm going to tell you these will keep you satisfied for several hours afterwards.
Absolutely. If you want to go ahead and add them in there, actually the timer's going off for our first dish, the casserole, so this works out perfectly. So we'll switch them out here. Get our timer set. We'll pull out our casserole. The cheese is melted. It's looking really good. All of that enchilada sauce is absorbed. It'll be awesome.
Finished. I say that's not a long recipe.
No.
Very quick and easy to add all those things together.
Absolutely.
For a quick, easy meal.
Certainly.
We'll get things cleaned up while that cools off, while the other burritos are finishing baking, and then we have one more recipe, quinoa pancakes that we're going to be doing. While our quinoa and black bean burritos are actually cooking and we're cooling off our quinoa enchilada casserole, we're actually going to make quinoa pancakes. And this is actually a staple at my house for the fact that I have an 18-month-old. He is not a big protein eater. He doesn't like meat. He doesn't like eggs. So that's something I was kind of thinking, how do I get him protein in there? And I actually started making some quinoa pancakes. I found it, and he loves them. So it's one easy way for me to get a nice way of protein into some of his meals, and I'm glad that he likes the quinoa, which is lower in saturated fats, which is very heart healthy for him as well. So we actually have some cooked quinoa here. We're actually going to take about 1.5 cups and put it into a dish. And we're actually going to add some of our other ingredients. So we are going to add 2 eggs to this to help as a binding. Nice thing you could do is kind of crack the 2 eggs together, because like Dugan's always mentioned in the past, one will break and the other one won't. It makes a nice, clean kind of break for you. And then we'll add the other egg right in there as well. And then we're going to just add a little bit of baking powder. We're going to add some cinnamon for flavoring. We're going to add some vanilla extract for flavoring, and actually a little bit of honey. So we're actually not adding any added sugars besides the honey, which is nice when we're looking at a lot of things I've been cooking with. We've been avoiding a lot of those added sugars in a lot of our dishes. So I don't add those. I use a lot of vanilla extract and cinnamon to add the flavor, so I don't have to add sugar.
Okay.
And you just kind of mix this all up, incorporate it, and then we have a griddle that's warming up over here. And we're just going to make our pancakes. So very quick and easy. The longest part is going to be the cooked quinoa.
Oh, yeah.
And what I tend to do is I tend to cook it, a couple days before, and I can put it in my fridge and use it as I need it.
Sure.
Especially when I'm making him something that he won't eat, I can make this very quick and easy.
Absolutely.
So now that our griddle is going to warm up, a lot of times when I make pancakes, I use a 1/4 cup measuring, just because serving size for a pancake is about 4 inches across. And if you think about some of the restaurants, or if you go out and you get a stack of pancakes, they're not 4 inches across. They're more like 8 inches across. So serving size is about 4 inches across. And so I use a 1/4 cup, and I'm just going to put it on here, and we'll just let them cook through and each side, and then flip them, and then they will be done. So we'll let those cook through each side. Like pancakes, you want to see it bubbling on top before you flip it, and then they will be completely done. And we're going to add some blueberries and just a hint of syrup on top of them. So we flipped our pancakes. We cooked the other side. They are cooked through. We're actually going to take them off the plate now, or the griddle, and put them on the plates. And they actually smell like pancakes.
Oh, yeah.
So just like any other pancake you have, just more of a protein base. A couple things you can do if you have some of these. You could add some syrup in here. Typically, I don't give my kids syrup. They're age 3 and 1, just because, again, I'm pretty strict about their added sugar intake, and they don't know any different. So I usually don't add a lot of syrup or any syrup. If you do, you don't really need much, because like I said, these are going to be sweet pancakes in general. So you don't really need too much syrup. I'm just going to add a dollop to each one. And then you can actually add some fresh blueberries on top as well. to kind of make it look a little bit more festive. You get a little bit fruit intake in there, along with a grain, along with a protein. So it makes a nice kind of well-balanced meal. So we're going to actually plate up all of our dishes now that they're all complete, and we're going to take a try of all these quinoa. So we have our dishes done. Here we have our quinoa enchilada casserole, our quinoa pancakes, and our black bean and quinoa burritos. So we're going to give these a try because they look delicious.
Absolutely.
On this enchilada one, we did add some cut avocados on top. So that's something you probably did not see us do in it, but we actually added that as a little bit of a garnish. We'll take a bite of this. You can see that cheese hanging there. It's kind of melted all together, incorporate really nicely. Great flavor there. I love how everything incorporates together. I like enchiladas myself, so it's kind of nice to have maybe a healthier version of enchilada available. Again, no meat in there. It's all very vegetarian friendly.
Yeah, I really like the avocado, how it cuts the fat, cuts through that bitiness that you get with the enchilada sauce. It kind of smooths it out. It's very, very good.
Absolutely. And then we have these quinoa pancakes. Again, we put a little dollop of syrup on them, add some blueberries in there for flavor. What I like about it, no added sugars, didn't come out of a box, great source of protein, very easy to make as well. So it tastes, tastes like a pancake.
It does. You get the egg flavor. That's your main binder, but it's still very good. I mean, I like it.
It's not going to have the same texture as regular pancakes because of the quinoa, but you get the same kind of taste, same kind of aspect to that.
Yeah, there's no flour in there. It's all quinoa, and you taste that, but it still tastes very much like a pancake. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very quick and easy idea. Then we have these burritos. Again, quick, easy lunch ideas for you. Can easily freeze as well, so take one of these. Nice thing about putting them in the oven versus the microwave, it gets a crunch on the outside, kind of helps binding it. You won't get that if you cook them in the microwave, but it tastes the same.
Cheese melted nice. It's really good flavor. I like the textural component.
Yes.
Because it is a vegetarian dish.
Yes.
It's going to be very soft, so cooking the outside of it gives it that contrast. It's very good.
I say right away I kind of got out some of the zucchini, some of the peppers in there, along with some of that black bean. Plus you get a little bit of the heat from the
a little bit,
jalapeno. Not much, perfect for me, but a great easy meal. Like I said, these will keep you full all day long.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on iHeart Cooking. We hope you enjoyed all the recipes that we did with quinoa today.
For more heart-healthy recipes like today, you can visit Reid Health's website at reidhealth.org/iHeartCooking.
We'll see you next month.